Hi guys, it's Alex McCann here from Manchester-based social media company Altium HQ. And we're joined today for our live interview, no, not live actually, pre-recorded interview with Mary Howard, who is the owner of maryhoward.com, spelled N-A-E-R-I for Mary. And you work, your day job, your life is working with companies and organizations to create email marketing success. And we'll delve into that later. But why we're talking today is we're talking about how to use Pinterest for business. And how this came about was I saw one of your LinkedIn posts, which we've been connected on LinkedIn, I think, for at least a year now. And I saw your post and the brain cogs went round and I thought, I never see anyone mention Pinterest at all. And I thought,
yeah, why? Why not?
Yeah, I thought this is absolutely perfect. We need to chat about this. And then it made me think, well, actually, if I never see Pinterest used as a social media guru, person, marketer, trainer, whatever, other people are massively underusing it. So that's what we're talking about today, how to use Pinterest for business. So thank you for joining us, Mary.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah, it seems a bit odd because, like you said, my specialism, I feel like I'm on a game show, is email marketing. But back when Pinterest kind of first came on the scene, I joined it as a beta user just because I thought, oh, I am very much, if there's something out there that needs to be tested, I like a beta phase. So I went into it and I thought it was interesting. But going back to what you and I were talking about when we had a conversation before this, it was pretty much just for pinning things. You couldn't really do much. It was literally like, saw things that you liked and you saved them. And it kind of tootled along like that for quite a while. But basically the last 5 years, for a variety of reasons, it has become a real powerhouse for brands. Certainly in America, and I think that's something that we're going to discuss. It is big in America. I mean, that's like where it's really grabbed on and gotten its big hold. But part of the reason you and I are talking about it now is that I do think in the future, it is going to become a marketing, the same way Instagram took a while to come on board and all that kind of stuff. So I do think if you understand the basics of what Pinterest is, and we're going to talk about those today, and you're willing to start and just try with it, I do think you're going to be a little bit ahead of the game over here. In the States, it's been there for quite a while, and it is far. But what's happening now in the States, and certainly with everything going on with COVID, is they're having to look at their international platform more seriously, because I think they're seeing potentially a limitation of growth in the States. So, yeah, it's, but as we said, and we talked about this, and one of the questions is it social media? Because I think it gets lumped into the social media stuff.
Yes, that's an interesting question. Is it a social network, social media platform, or is it a search engine? Because whenever I think of social media, we used to talk about the big three. And then we started talking about the big five as more social media platforms. And Pinterest has never been part of the big three or the big five. And that's because I don't think it is a social network.
It's not. So that's interesting, because when it was first started, it was never ever intended to be social. It was always to be, well, it was supposed to be a visual sharing platform, really. It was for you to share, finished, everybody's seeing Pinterest images. That's what drives it. It's image driven. It's not text driven. So it's a visual search engine, for lack of a better word. And they do occasionally dabble in the idea of being social, in that they've added bits where you can say, have you tried this project yet? If you have, comment here, so that when people go to visit the pin, they can see what other people have said about the pin. So they're not trying to go full on into the idea of it being social, but they're trying to enable it a little bit. It's definitely not. And I'll tell you the other thing that's interesting about it, and people, for me, this is the biggest issue, is, and you'll know this from having trained on Instagram. Instagram wants to keep you in keep it in that bubble. The longer you get on Instagram, the happier they are. Pinterest isn't that way.
No.
I want you to find it, what you're looking for, maybe look around at some of the other things, hit the pin. The pin then gives you, hopefully, and this is something I'm going to talk about in the don'ts thing, hopefully it's gotten a link, and the link goes to a website or a blog post or something. But its job is to, like a funnel, come in, find what you need, go off. And that's the biggest difference in it. It's not interested in keeping you on it. So and it's hard because one of the things that we were talking about was, well, what are some of the numbers around Pinterest? It's hard because it does tend to get lumped into social media numbers, but it's not social media. So it's a bit like an apple to a kind of like a pear. Do you know what I mean? Fruit, it's the same, this is fruit, same family. It's about communication, but it's not the same when you break it down at that level. So it can be really hard to say, well, what's better to be on and which one's got more traction, because they're kind of not the same. And I don't really know of any other, I think more emphasis is being put on the idea of visual marketing, but Pinterest still's got the corner because they have been doing it for so long and they got it nailed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, from what you've said as well, I guess we should be maybe thinking of Pinterest in the same way as you said, like a search engine, kind of like YouTube or Google, rather than Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on.
As a matter of fact, if you were to lump it in Google and YouTube, that's the place it should be in. Definitely. When I try and pull them out. So one of the things I'm hoping that helps people understand the difference between, it's not a search engine, even though you might think that it is. One of the numbers, so I think the biggest difference in terms of numbers that I think is worth paying attention to if you are thinking about using Pinterest, and when I say, and we're going to talk about the areas that you might want to be thinking about, is that the average person, and I've got a slide for it here, and I'm going to show you this slide because it actually shows it to the other ones. Right, so let me just share my screen. See if I can do that. Okay, right, can you see that screenshot there? Okay, so I put a little arrow, and I'll explain to you what it's saying. So across the top, you can see it's got Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Twitter. And this is, I think, from last month. So this is a pretty recent study. This isn't, and it's hard to find numbers that are new sometimes. The biggest thing on this whole, when you're looking at this, that's worth paying attention to, is that when the person goes on, and that's what this left-hand channel is saying, it's saying, well, what is that person going to do or happy to do when they're on that platform? So viewing photos, obviously Instagram, 77%. Of course you're going to view photos on Instagram. That's what Instagram is good for. Come down here to finding or shopping for products. On Pinterest, it's 38%. So 40% of people that go onto Pinterest, and again, look across that, that's higher than by far, any of those other numbers that are on there. I mean, it blows everything else out of the water. And that is because it's set up that experience so that when people go on it, that's kind of what they're trained to go on it to do that. So, when we talked about, well, what are the different, other different platforms? Obviously, those are the other platforms that all do different things. But if you are a brand or you've got a business and you're serious about selling, that's the Pinterest is the one that I think you genuinely have to start thinking about, from a serious point of view. The other thing is, and I don't think I've got it, I'm going to fast forward past the next one. Hold on. Can I do this? Right, I'll tell you what, get that one. The other thing is, and this is the marketing, part of the marketing reason behind it, but there's something else in between those two slides, that the average purchasing, the average household budget of the person that goes on to Pinterest to spend money is $75,000. It's the highest, exactly. So you're picking that really good fruit that's got money, they want to spend it. It's aspirational. They see things they like, they got the money, they want to spend it. So those two things are like a perfect storm. You've got 48% that want to buy, they got a high income. So, that's the big thing that I think people don't realize. Now, the other thing, and this is more from a marketer's brain, which I know you're into marketing and I'm in marketing as well, is that the pins that are created, if they're good pins, they actually pick up speed the longer they're on Pinterest. Versus traditional, as you'll know this from all of your training, they dip. They all have all different varying windows of length of windows. This one goes up. And if you've got a really good pin, it can go on for 8, 9, 10, 11 months. And again, what I'll do is I'm going to go and show you my Pinterest account. So I'll show you what I mean when we look at the analytics. And that's different from any other marketing, any of the other platforms that you have as well. And that's a big thing. And again, like I said, high income earners use Pinterest to shop. Now, the other thing is there's this thing, I'm going to call it the Corona effect, which is that I think everybody's going to be, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing for a moment. I think what's going to happen is, because so much of what's happened with the corona is now forcing people to go online, people are going to, and I know this is true, just last week I was reading about it, that the increase in people going on to Pinterest and pinning projects, 70% increase during, because people are home. I want to entertain my children. I want to make bread, all the things that we keep seeing everybody doing. So it's increased by 70%. And I think then what's going to happen is people are going to also, it's going to follow through to the buying as well.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be the funnel that people find it and then buy it from. So I just think that's going to be a huge thing that's going to be happening. It's funny, the last quarter numbers came out just as the lockdown hit, and they were pretty good. But they've said they still don't know if it's going to correlate into actual. They've lost advertising, but they've increased users. So they're trying to figure out how that's going to smash out. So that's what I'm saying to you. There's this weird, corona effect. So that's the reason, why people should be on it. For my brand or whatever. So yes, that would be my answer to those questions.
Fab. So sort of going back then, going back to your background, email marketer. This isn't what you do. So what can you remember? I know there's obviously the stats now and how Corona is affecting things, but what initially drew you to Pinterest specifically, as opposed to maybe other social networks, or do you kind of go on everything that's new?
I am a little bit of I will try every social network, because I think if you're in marketing, whether it's digital, email, they're not in a vacuum anymore. They're all related. So Pinterest, I have to admit, so when it first started, I use it for my own personal things. About 5 years ago, I switched to the business account. So if you're going to use it, you have to have a business account. And the business account allows you to look at the analytics. And the analytics are good. So again, we'll talk about those a little later on. But they also changed really what the pins were doing from a marketing point of view. It made sense in my brain. Do you know what I mean? At the beginning, it didn't, because they was just static. Things got pinned and that was it. Now they've moved it, so it's a lot more of a marketing beast. And so my marketing brain thought it's absolutely something that it's got the potential, if it's used properly, to make a big difference in businesses, which is something that you were asking me about. Can it make a big difference in a business? Absolutely. But like anything, you've got to know, almost reverse engineer what it is that you want to do. Do you want to raise, you have to know what products you want to sell on it.
Yeah.
Imaging is so important, a bit like Instagram. You don't put a crappy image up there, because it's just going to kill you. So there's a lot of more, you almost have to know in advance what you want it to do and then put the foundation in place and go. So for me, it made sense. I use it. It doesn't generate income for me, but that's because I choose it not to. I use it to raise awareness of my business as like a funnel for information. Now, you could, in this case, if this ends up being something that you put on YouTube, and if you're somebody who's got a lot of YouTube material, you can use Pinterest to point through to your YouTube videos. And it becomes, again, another funnel to it ends up where you want it to be. It helps push it there. So that's the nice thing about it as well. You can shoot it on, but you just have to know that that's what you want it to do. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, and it's a little bit more, you have to think a lot about the visual end of it, because that's what makes your, whatever it is you're posting, the thing that picks people's attention, a bit like Instagram.
Yeah, as you said, it's changed quite a bit. Obviously, before we were recording this, I thought I better look at Pinterest a little bit more, and I was like, that's changed, that's new, that's different. It looks better to start with than it used to. It looks better, so it feels like it's matured since it first came out.
Well, what happened was it went public, it went IPO, stock options. What's the word? My brain's stuff. It basically had stock. It went public and sold stock last April. So they've literally only business for a year. And the minute you do that, you have to change your model so that it's an income generating one versus a passive in the background one. And that's how come, if you haven't seen it in a year, it's a completely different beast. And moving forward, there's other stuff on the horizon that they keep talking. It's interesting. They've got a different way of communicating. They kind of will leak out. Suddenly you log on, you think, oh, what does that little thing do? And you'll fiddle with it. And you go, oh, but they don't send out like a, listen, this is what version 3.2.1 will do. You have to learn it yourself. And it's because they're trying things out in slow, don't release it. They let people try it. They see if it grabs on, and then so yeah, it does completely change. But I think they're really good about it. I think they do try to make it as user accessible as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think it seemed when I went on it this week and sort of had a play, change things, it definitely seemed a lot more user friendly. So that's another question. We've talked about the benefits, we talked about the numbers. The next thing I want to sort of talk about is a lot of the people will be watching this will be small businesses. They could be B2C, they could be B2B. It doesn't matter. But time is an issue for all businesses. Yeah. And quite often I'd hear the phrase, I don't have the time. So how much time do you actually need to spend on Pinterest to make it work?
So the thing, when you first start out to use Pinterest, again, my advice to anybody, and I have given this advice to people when they come and ask me, like, help, I need help with it, is don't feel that you've got to create loads of information to go on. Better to have 4 really good pins than 15 crappy ones. So that I think you have to spend a bit of time getting everything set up properly. And again, I'll show you what I mean when we go through my Pinterest account. You do have to really think about it. You can't just throw stuff at the wall and hope stuff sticks, because then you're going to be disappointed. Then the next thing is it can take between 2 to 3 to 4 months for the trajectory to hit. So I was saying to you about the fact that things go up. So what you're going to do then is you get your pins on, however many, 4 or 5 or whatever. But the thing then that you have to do every day, that's 10, 15 minutes, is repin. And you're repinning other people's or other businesses' pins that you think are worth putting in your pins. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've got 4 pins, which I think like nobody will tell you this, but I think it's almost like a 20-80 ratio. 20% of the pins that go on should be ones that you create. The other 80% are the ones that you gather around, because obviously that's what makes Pinterest work. They want you to go and grab another one and reshare it. 10 to 15 minutes a day once you get going on it. I don't do it every day though. I mean, if you're a perfect person and I'm thinking you've got all the time in the world to do it, what I find is when I get into a habit almost, which is like when I get up in the morning, I'll go on, I'll check to see which ones of mine have had activity over the night, just to see which ones are popular. And then I see, because they will also suggest ones that you should be looking at. Look at that, pin them, repin them. And then occasionally when I get a chance, I'll really look at what my pins I've repinned, and I'll kind of open them up and check them out type of thing. 10 to 15 minutes a day at the most, I think. Yeah. There's also a lot of automators as well. It's like, there's automators for Instagram. There's loads of them that you can set things up ahead of time to do all the pinning and the repinning for you, which, maybe spend an hour a week on that and then let it roll for the week and you don't have to do anything. So that's the other thing. Yeah, auto pins.
Yeah, so it's interesting what you just said then about the 20-80 split, 20% your own content, 80% other people's, because normally on the other platforms, it's these kind of creators that win rather than the curators that win.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different, they definitely need people to create new information or new pins, but they know if they also need to have them cross-pollinate. So they will reward you for going on more regularly and being more of a pinner. A bit like LinkedIn. LinkedIn loves it when you're reacting to other people. It's exactly the same thing. So within its own microclimate, it wants you to share around. Yeah. And that's what's well. So yeah, but you absolutely have to get it set up right from the beginning, because I think that's the thing. I worked with a few people in the wedding industry, and I know you mentioned, isn't that what one of the big areas is? And I'm going to talk about one of the areas in a minute. And this is like a recent snapshot of the areas that are the ones that are growing. I kept saying to her, you got to go on every day. If you don't go on every day, you're going to lose that traction. And, sometimes they were good and sometimes they weren't. So you kind of have to be willing to put in that effort kind of virtually every day to get the result. And then we went back and we looked at the original pins that they had set up, and they were all done, very slap on the wall. So we worked it all. So yeah, going back to, if you want to be efficient, you want to work, make sure that you know what you want to do.
Yeah. Fab. So you mentioned we mentioned sort of what sectors Pinterest works towards. And I've always had it in my head. It's it's weddings, interiors, it's recipes, the obvious stuff.
Yeah,
is that obvious because it's correct, or am I totally wrong?
Well, okay, there's two things that's obvious about that. It is female driven. It's like 60% or 65% of people using it. I think, no, sorry, 70% are women. And then what they're saying is, at the moment though, that number is kind of, there's more men joining, but they're looking for things like woodworking, craft beer, very typically male kind of, whether it's to do with the corona, I don't know, but they want to make things. So it is shifting a little bit. It's still within that making market, the aspirational maker market, but it's still, men. So it's a different from that point of view. So that's the first thing. It is, and again, I'll tell you what, I'll share the slide with you because you can see all the different areas that it's in, because I think what you're going to find is it's a little bit surprising, right? So going back to what you said, yeah, obviously up here you can see art supplies and hobbies, 48%. These are people that are going on to Pinterest, are in that category when they're looking for something. But I want you to look down here, and what I'm going to also talk about is something called like micro niche markets. So you've got things like the usual health and beauty, clothing, apparel, but then you've got things like sporting goods. Can you see that down there?
Yeah.
Footwear doesn't have to be female. It can, though I think there's an element that Adidas trainers, all these different brands that want to get out there. I'll tell you the other thing that I thought was interesting was there. I did a little quick look to see what industries have actually in the last 2 or 3 weeks been using Pinterest in a different way. In America, Chevrolet, they have, and that what they were doing was they were talking about taking care of your car when it's not being used as much during Corona. So what they've done is had some pins about how to jumpstart your car. This is what I'm saying. It isn't just the female thing. And what I'll do is I'm going to show you the next slide. When you talk about things like you said, the overarching big ones like renovating, landscape, and home decor, we have to realize, and these are real, these are trends from the last, I think, 6-8 weeks. Can you see the micro trends underneath that? So here, outdoor bars, the search, it's gone up almost 3,000% for outdoor bars, which you sit there and think, well, how would you fold that into a Pinterest marketing plan? Well, for example, if you were a gin company, what you would talk about is let's create outdoor gin drinks to help you with your outdoor bar. Does that make sense? You've got to really have that kind of lateral, I think that's the word. Same thing like audio room, it's up 803%. Well, why doesn't somebody who's, somebody that creates furniture, this furniture would be great for your audio room. So that's where, even though I know what you're saying about it's the home decor thing, it's those subcategories underneath that if you're really smart and your brain can kind of move past the obvious, you could really take advantage of those. And that's the thing. And I am going to show you in the end one that I thought was quite a nice one. You asked about an example, and I've got one that's. So those are the areas, they got those big areas, but within that, they just bleed right out into all these micro areas that are worth taking advantage of. What I would say is if you are going to go down that route of, trying to set it up and get it working, you really do have to have an e-commerce enabled website without a doubt. I think everybody needs one anyway, but I think that makes it even more important. You absolutely have to think about the content and then create it. Don't just create it and then hope that it becomes interesting. And it all comes down to marketing. So going back to what I was saying before, you've got to know what you want that pin before you create it. And then create the image, write the text, pick the hashtags. It's just like some of the other stuff they have to do for your social media. You have to really, you have to know what it is that you want it to do and put it all up there, and then it'll stick. So, that's the topic. That's the topic areas. But look at all that micro niching underneath.
Yeah, definitely. So, flipping on to the other side, we've talked obviously a lot of those areas we're talking about, the types of business, even when it went down to the micro niche, were what I'd call B2C businesses. So a lot of the people that follow us, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be on other forms of social media, the B2B or professional services like us. So how can those types of businesses use Pinterest for business? And can they? Is it worth the spending time?
See, I think it is, but I think it's got to be the right kind of business. So one of the ones that they were talking about when I was looking at it, which I was quite surprised about, that's a growing area, is personal finance, mortgage brokers to banks, real estate agents. And I'm going to show you this one: real estate agents to mortgage brokers. So, however they've met, and again, it's a weird growing area. I would not have thought to go into Pinterest to get mortgage advice or to get advice about finance, but apparently it is. So even things like if you're in the, what was the other one that I saw, which I thought was quite interesting? I mentioned real estate. I can't think of the other one because I thought, what a great idea. You can, but again, it's like anything. You have to know what it is that you're marketing to. And I have to admit, it depends on how savvy one of the B's is about using Pinterest. You know what I mean? You've got to have somebody who uses Pinterest as part of their marketing platform in that business to see what you're doing on yours. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, I definitely think it just depends. It just depends. The other thing is, if you are a small business and you are marketing yourself to other businesses, it doesn't cost you anything to put together your Pinterest profile.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you to put some pins together. You can DIY it really easily. I think where it becomes issue is when you get busier or, you find that you need to have somebody give you more of a professional insight into what you're doing. But, try it, and see what happens.
Yeah, I was tidying up mine again this week, looking at mine when it had all changed and thought, right, okay, going to ditch those boards. I'm going to add this board in. And I thought, if I'm a social media person, have it for all the relevant platforms, Instagram tips, LinkedIn tips, Twitter tips, that are all in individual boards rather than the whole generic social media tips. That was one of the things that I've done. And I think that goes down to one of the next questions. Driving traffic to a website is important to me, to professional services. And it's interesting, when I look at my Google Analytics, I've known this for a long time. Pinterest drives about 3 or 4 times the amount of traffic than, say, a platform like Instagram does, because Instagram doesn't have many places to click the links.
Exactly. So part of the reason, again, I know we had this in the conversation, is it wants you to bounce off its platform and go into another one. The big key for that, though, and I'll tell you what I might do now, if you don't mind, is I'm going to share my Pinterest account now and explain to you what I mean, because you need to make sure that you're, just see if I can go there. Oops, can you see that? Oh, here we go. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see your Pinterest account.
Okay, right. So again, I don't use this to generate income. It's literally just to advertise the services that I have, right? So what I have done is very much what you said, is I've created, I'll go back to the boards. I have created boards, come on, it's a bit slow, for every area of my business that I get asked about. So same thing for you. I've got how to create video that sells. Those are my boards. And then within that, I know, how many boards do I have now? I've got 21 boards, and I will keep adding to those. I'm going to try and do one on IGTV as well, because I want to start researching how to use that for my business. So I'll start that board, but I'll start that board in secret mode. Do you know about there's a secret mode, which is right down here. See the secret boards?
Yeah.
So what I will do, instead of putting a board up and then either not having a lot to fill it or not even having any pins on it, is I'll put it in secret mode. Populate it first with what it is that I want, add one of my own pins that I've created to it. And then when I'm happy that it's got enough content, I'll put it unsecret and it goes up to the top. And that definitely helps you kind of keep a cohesive look, because you can see all of my boards have got a nice image to them, don't they? Again, So that is the best thing is you can do for your company, for any company, especially if it's B2B. Figure out what the boards are that your marketplace wants to find information on and create boards for. And it's that simple. Now, when you drill down, there's a couple things. So I'm going to talk about the MailChimp one. What you're going to notice is that you have to do quite a bit of thinking around what the title is. Don't just put how to use MailChimp.
Yeah.
think about the person and what they are going to search for, like any other, like Google. It's got to say, so this one, how to use MailChimp for more than, actually it was just going to be how to use MailChimp for newsletters, but I added that more than just to be a little, that's how this will get picked up when somebody searches for it. And then you have to have a write-up underneath it. Again, get your SEO in there, get your words that you need, your keywords in there. And then when you go to something like, let me just see if I can find one of these. I'll click on, this is where I hope I've done these right. I'm going to click on this one here, which is just one I created. Right, you were asking about hashtags. You see here, again, what you do is you do a write-up on your pin. What can you see here? I've got hashtag video, MailChimp landing pages. That's what helps that pin get picked up by the right search when somebody's looking for it. Do you see what I mean? It's helping it funnel down. You also need to have then a click. So when somebody clicks on that image, and this is what I was saying to you about there we go. Yeah, right. This is just, it'll go through to the web page that I've asked it to go through to.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is really important. It's this link thing. So going back to how come it drives 3 to 4 times more than any other place? Because it drives back to exactly where you need it to. And if you've got your messaging right on your website or whatever, then people are there. To some extent, if they click through to your website, you really have got an interested buyer, haven't you? Or somebody that's, so that's become the sales on ourselves. So that's the main thing, is if you can just remember, always have each pin as optimized as possible. Nice image, so it's all on brand, it's got the MailChimp logo, it links through to where I need it to go, and I've made sure that that is, got the hashtags, and it's also front loaded with the keywords. Now, doesn't mean that, you're always gonna have it go exactly where you need, but it gives you a higher chance of being picked up when somebody does something. So that's, the 3 to 4 times higher is just having your pin completely ready to get all the information on that you need and get pushed through. So yeah, that would be.
Yeah, so in terms of optimizing, it is headline, body of your caption and hashtags, and the link to the right place. Those are the 4 sort of points.
Yeah. It's just like anything. You got to do a bit of research. I'm sure you know that when you do, you go to see a client and you can't just say, well, you have to tell them what their keywords are and all that. But you have to remember to set them up. I think people just think they'll find it. And you have to have good images. So, whether people want to invest in them or take them, it's up to them, but they need to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of that, what else can you do apart from, what can you do actively to use LinkedIn without posting? Because obviously on all the other platforms, there's the engagement side of things, commenting on other people's posts. Is commenting a big part of Pinterest, or is it not?
No, again, they've tried to. They've had this little widgety thing that says, try this. Nah, and it's meh. They've tried it. I just don't think it's, people that go on it don't want to leave. The only time I've left comments is when it's a dead link.
Yeah.
And I put a dead link. And that's just so that anybody else that's on there doesn't spend the 2 minutes that I just did to find out there's no rabbit hole. So no, not interested in sharing it really from that point of view. So yeah.
So what else can you do apart from the pinning other people's? Is there any other element to it?
Yeah, so what I tend to do is I will always use it in my marketing wherever I can, and that helps spread the word. I'll say, ooh, if you're interested in knowing more about, microphones, there's a board on mine. Go on and take a look, because it saves me having to tell them. It just points them to it. That's a good question. I think that's the main thing, is just to try and keep it relevant. Don't just create it and let it hope it does its business. You have to help kind of keep it going by telling people and putting it in all your promotional stuff as well. So yeah.
So definitely. So you need to be marketing as well. So we've talked about why Pinterest, we've talked about posting, we've talked about optimizing the posts, and you've mentioned this a few times, and I'm a bit of a geek, so I love this sort of stuff. Pinterest analytics.
I was going to say analytics. You might kind of
How do you use that?
Right, so I think the thing that people need to look at is their analytics, because at any platform, that's the thing that's going to tell you what to create and what to promote. Now, if if you put a pin on, this is a don't that I just have to remember to tell you. If you put a pin on, or you have a board and it just doesn't perform very well, probably the temptation is to take that off because you think, well, it doesn't look very good. You shouldn't. You should put it into that secret mode. And they just don't like it because you're taking people off the platform then by deleting that board. But if you put it in secret, they're still on Pinterest. They're just not like, it's just not open to the public. So I'm going to take you through, I'm going to show you just the 2 areas that you need to look at when you look at the analytics, right? So your analytics is over here, right? Come on. You've got your overview, and that's that full on, gives you the big umbrella. What your pins are doing, what your boards are doing, who's repinned them, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll click on it in a minute. Actually, I'll click on it now. And it also gives you organic, so stuff that you've created versus, come on. So it gives you all of that. And you can see, oh, come on. Can you see that all right?
You're coming a little bit slow. Hopefully it's going to start. It looks like it's loading.
Yeah, and I can see that my voice is a bit slow behind mine. Come on. Ooh, this is. Ooh, come on. All right. There. You can at least see that. Right. So you can see now, it gives you, again, these are all the impressions or views. It's how many people have gone on to your Pinterest board and looked at stuff. And it's an overall. It doesn't drill down to the detail. However, I can come down here, top boards for impressions, great photography tips. You scroll over it, it gives you tons of detail, right? Great video. So these are all the ones at the moment that are really popular. Great video for marketing and email marketing tools and tips and tricks. So it tells you right away the ones that are your best performing, which is brilliant, because then you know, like for me, and I think this is when the LinkedIn thing that you commented on was all about how you can use this to know what you're writing about or answering questions for your potential clients. If you come down here, you'll see that it's the most popular pins by impressions. Now, again, you can really drill down pins created in the last 30 days. I haven't created any pins in the last 30 days, so I don't need to do that. But if you're somebody that's like a professional pin creator, that's the thing that you'd want it to filter out. Yeah. But you can see it gives you tons more information. And oddly enough, my most popular pin isn't one of mine. It's one that I've repinned. So if I was really clever, I'd create a pin just like that pin.
Yeah.
Slightly different topic, a little bit of a different photo, and then I put it on my board. Because you know it's popular. Other people are finding on your board. You know what I mean? I'm not, because I'm not monetizing, it doesn't make a difference to me. Come on. Oh God, this is slow. So that's the one area, that's the overview. But the other thing that's good is it also has this audience insights. Now, where that's really important is they have, again, this was something that they started, I think, about 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, called, not Boost. It's Boost on Facebook. It's
promoted pins.
Promoted pins. Thank you. And the promoted pins, really, they knew that they had to give you a lot more detail about what the individual users were using, so that you knew where you needed to promote pins to. So this gives you all of the different areas that your pins are going. You know, you can see how they're performing in the different areas. Also, obviously, it gives you the age and the sex tissue. 73% female. Well, that's interesting. A lot less than I thought it would be for some reason. I thought it'd be higher than that. So it gives you all of that overarching view, so that if you decide to go and do a promoted pin, and those are slightly different beasts, I'm still trying to figure my way around them. You know where you're trying or where you could be in your marketing expense into and be able to get it. United Kingdom, United States, you know, so you can see it. I mean, to be honest with you, iPhone, you know, and web, that you can see where everybody's. So again, it just gives you total audience and your engaged audience. So it gives you tons of detail. You just, not enough data to explain, yes, because I haven't done anything recently. It gives you so much information if you're willing, like you said, you geek out on numbers. That is the thing that you can, you know, really take a look at. So I find I use it when I'm trying to think about, I'll stop sharing. If I'm trying to think about putting together a pin Like I said, I haven't done one recently, but I'll probably do one anyway. Like, where should I be creating it? You know, what areas it's hot topic, what pins are hot topics, and that way, you know, it's got a good chance of hopefully, you know, helping. You don't want to create something that ends up going into the, you know, not really doing anything and not picking up trade. So from a business's point of view, from a brand point of view, that's where you really can get that granular bit of information that you can hopefully then turn around and use. So yeah, analytics are great. Go on and take a look at them. Now that you know where things are a little bit, you can
Yeah, definitely. The thing that I saw, which when we went on to the overview of analytics and you saw your top pins, the things that lots of people don't do, which I've realized, is there's that little bit of code that you put on your website so you can see where other people are pinning your stuff. And I think that's, again, goes down to what you said about the other people pinning can drive massive results for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lady who, in the village that I live in, she's a fantastic floral artist. She's amazing stuff. She created a bouquet. This is probably about 6-7 years ago. Bouquet. She had a professional photographer take a photo of it. She posted it on to Pinterest, I think. Or was it on Instagram? I can't remember. She's had 1 million views. That it has just gone around. So she said she's so cross with herself because she never watermarked it. There was no branding on it. And she said she's actually had brides come into the shop and go, I want this bouquet. And she's like, I actually made that bouquet. But they don't know that because it's just been picked up so many times around. So yeah, it just goes to show you, if other people pick up your pin, it can really go. So yeah.
So interesting question you just mentioned then about, is it important to put your branding over everything, like you just said?
The problem that you have is, I did put it on I don't know if you noticed it, but I put one of my logos on it. People are so clever now. They can take those out if they want, can't they, at the end of the day? And I'm not hating that. I do always put my logos on stuff, but I'm not surprised if something popped up and the logo wasn't on it at some point, because I did have that happen once. It made me go, well, okay. I must be doing something right. If people want what I've got, but don't want my logo. So that's fine.
No.
Try and put stuff on it as much as you can, branding and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, even down to simple things like colour schemes. We've got our oranges on there and our blacks and our whites as our main colours. So do's and don'ts. Pinterest do's and don'ts.
You can do it. I'm going to pull the slide up for this, because when I was doing it, I thought, oh, I've got a couple that are probably a little bit more. Move that over. Right, the do's and the don'ts are, yeah, there we go. Hold on. All right, can you see that? All right.
Yep.
Okay. Oops. Do's and don'ts. Right, and I know I said this in the talk before. Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Better to have really good pins, a fantastic image, fully optimized, than just throwing them out left, right, and center. Don't dead link. So no dead links. I know I've said that before. Double check it. Make sure that all of them go out somewhere. No deleting pins. Put the pins in secret mode. They don't want you to delete. Plan ahead for best performance, because you know that it takes 2, 3, 4 months for something to hit. If you've got a product that you think might be popular at Christmas time, you got to start in August.
Right.
So that by the time it's really hit that, you know, that trajectory, it's the opposite of flatten the curve, isn't it? It's increase the curve. It's popular at Christmas time. You absolutely have to plan ahead. There's tons of ways online. You can Google, and people have got all these planners that, you know, point out when it's the busiest and when you need to start planning. And then keep on posting. They want you to keep on posting. They want you to not just put a couple things up there and walk away, because that's what will make. So I did one number that I was like, holy mackerel, 200 billion pins they've had. They have 2 billion pins per month.
Wow.
And it's increasing. And this is what I'm saying. This is why they want you to keep on posting and pinning, because they want you to keep, you know, to keep doing that. So, you know, that would be the main do's and don'ts that I think anybody that knows anything about Pinterest would tell you. So if you can remember that. Now, one of the things, sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to just say then, you obviously, again, something you mentioned a few times is the reverse of flattening the curve, the increasing the curve. So does Pinterest have an algorithm like other platforms have an algorithm, or is it as simple as that? It's just the longer it's on there, the longer it gets seen?
And there was a big hoo-ha when they went onto these promoted posts, which they'd never had before. People did that same thing where they said, let me just stop my share. They said, oh, they're now giving promoted pins more like quicker out of the gate than people that are just creating organic. Nobody knows. You know this. Instagram doesn't tell you what theirs is. Facebook doesn't. I think the key to it, and you know this as well, is just create great content. Sometimes the content will stick. Sometimes it won't. It's not always your fault if it doesn't stick. It's purely down to timing and people's interests at that time. But always create great content, and at least you're giving yourself the best chance. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, get the content right. More people repin it, and then you get the traction from that.
Exactly. So I think that's a big thing. Now, you had asked me about some like small companies.
Yeah, shining examples of businesses doing well.
Okay, so I picked two different ones, and I think one of them I mentioned I was going to share when we were talking before. Right. Is this... he's a realtor. I mean, this is in America.
Yeah, so that's an estate agent, isn't it, in England?
Yeah, exactly. So it's an estate. And I found him because I was Googling, like I said, I was like, really? Personal finance? But mortgage information. He came up. He has 547,000 unique viewers.
Wow.
That is amazing. And I think when I drilled down and looked at it, it's because he does a lot of like repinning of banks and what they're doing. And he's taken the time to really be involved with this. But he also had a couple of boards that were very much, if you want more information about my services, this is the board for you. So that's a bit different. And this one is a UK one that she actually won an award for last year, I think it was, for Pinterest, for the beauty, like you said, this, you know, traditionally think of. But she's a small batch producer, 548,000 monthly unique viewers. She's got fantastic photography, and she just knows how to promote what she does. She's not like an Estee Lauder or a big brand. She's a very small brand. And I did look at it. She's almost in the health. She creates skin care for people that have got like rosacea. Is that the word? The red cheek. Very much for people that have troubled skin. So it's a very niche market. And she's only in about 7 or 8 retailers that are really small and really kind of health oriented, but she's managed to have this fantastic presence, and that's how she uses it to sell her products. So, you know, there's two completely different markets, and they're both doing really well in it. So it's it's hard to explain to people, but you almost have to, you have to be willing to look at it as a proper marketing tool and know how to set everything up and go through the whole cycle of using it. You know, what's happened when people start to use, they use LinkedIn for the first time, and 3 months later they can't figure out why nothing's happened. And you say to them, because it doesn't happen in 3 months, it happens in the 6 months, in the 9 months mark, when you keep putting your time in. And there's, that is definitely something that, people have to get their head around. It's just that they have to put that time in the beginning to having it go. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of time and lots of effort, but once you do it, it's worth it, and you'll start to see the results.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. That's been fantastic, Mary. We're sort of wrapping up now. So if people have watched this, because it's going to be on Facebook and it's going to be on YouTube, where do people find you if they want to know more about you and more about what you do as an email business?
The email person, right? I'll tell you what. I've got my little screen there. I put my Pinterest account, so anybody wants to follow that, feel free. I put LinkedIn because I know that's where you and I have met, and obviously we've now met in person. And the other thing is, I've got a little newsletter that you can sign up for, and that newsletter it's not just a newsletter about email marketing. It's about communications. It's about digital. It's all kinds of stuff. So I wouldn't want you to sign up for it and think I'm going to just hammer you with stuff about email marketing, because you know this as well as I do. Everything's so interrelated nowadays, isn't it? You can't just have Instagram marketing up in a corner, and everything's all and that's basically what it's about. So yeah, you can find me on there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very, very much for your time, Mary. So it's obviously maryhoward.com. I've been Alex McCann from Altium HQ, and you can find us on altiumhq.co.uk. Thanks for your time.
Welcome. Cheers. Bye now.
Cheers. Bye.